Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Mondays. I'm actually starting this a couple minutes early because I've been told that I'm cutting my 30 minutes a little bit short by pinging the groups in. So I'm going to do that right now so that by the time it's 10 o'clock, we're going to be ready to rock. So hopefully you guys are ready to have a great session today. I have a lot of questions that have come in because I missed last week. But as always, we're going to get to your questions. So if you have any questions that you'd like asked, go ahead and put those in the comments as we get going. If you have them right away, if you know you want to ask a question, go ahead and put it in the comments now. That way we can be sure we get right to it. If not, I've got questions that have come in the time that we haven't been here. Good morning, Haley. Good to see you in the room. So if you have any questions, put them in now. If not, we will get going in 1 second. I'm just going to finish getting this into the different rooms and we will get going. So I appreciate everybody tuning in on a Monday morning. Hopefully you guys had a terrific weekend and are looking forward to having a great week. So just have one more. This is always the one that always takes the longest to find. So I apologize about that, but because we started just a little bit early, we're going to be able to get started. We'll be able to get the full 30 minutes in time. So anyway, with that, we're going to go ahead and get going. So again, one of the things with these, if you haven't been on one of these groups before, just let me know. If you have any questions, you go ahead and put them in the comments. I will get to them today. I always give a priority to people that are tuning in live. But I also get questions throughout the week that I will answer. If you have any clarifications on any of the answers I give, go ahead and ask those in the comments as well. I have a running stream right alongside my the screen right here, so I can see whenever a comment comes in, and I will make sure I get to those. So with that, we're going to dive right in because we do have a lot of questions, and I want to make sure I get time for all of them. So this is a question that came in from a company that hasn't needed to do marketing in the past. And they just said, we're beginning to think that more about marketing. Our business has always been busy, but now it's starting to slow down. What would be a good first start? So great question. So obviously, if you've never needed marketing before, my assumption is that you have good word of mouth out there. You're in a community that knows about your business and that you have done a lot of things well that you haven't needed marketing up to this point. So that's a very positive first thing because you can use that now in your marketing. So first of all, I would say you definitely want to, depending on what you're doing, if you're trying to run a promotion or something like that, obviously we could build an ad around that, but we need to figure out why you're not getting ads. Is the traffic to your, first thing I would look at is just what's happening. Is the traffic to your website down? Have the posts you've been putting on social media been getting less traffic, like less response, less engagement? Have you been getting less phone calls? Are you showing up well in search results? So the first thing I would do is try to analyze what exactly is happening. Like if you're not getting the results you were getting, let's try to figure out what has changed. So and a good example of that would be like, let's say that you were always showing up at the very top of Google search results, but now you notice a competitor is showing up higher than you, or maybe that you've never had to pay for ads and you were showing up number one, but now that you notice there's a new competitor in town that's actually paying for Google AdWords so that he's coming up or she's coming up ahead of you. So they're now coming up in the top position on Google where you had previously been coming up. That could be a relevant factor because maybe you were getting a lot more of those clicks or a lot more of those phone calls in the very beginning because you were always showing up at the top. Same thing goes for the map pack or, basically what's derived from your Google My Business page. Where are you showing up there? Are there people that have creeped in and got ahead of you on that? Could that be affecting how many people are calling you or how many people are reaching out? Very well could be. So that's the very first thing you want to look at. Look at the traffic to your website. Has that went down? Is there things that we could be doing with regard to SEO that wouldn't even necessarily be paid, but get you back on track? How long has it been since you've updated your website? How long has it been since you've updated your Google My Business page? Are you adding content? all those things would go into just trying to identify what has changed. You were getting the business that you wanted without paying for it, and now you're not. So what has changed with regard to that? That's the biggest thing that I would look at, and then start working back from there. So if your traffic is down on the website and maybe your Google placement isn't what it was, we may want to consider doing Google AdWords, or doing some SEO, or doing some things with regard to increasing your positioning on Google. So that may be paid, that may be organic. If you haven't paid, but you haven't been doing anything, you haven't been adding anything to your website, you haven't been adding anything to Google My Business, my first step might be to try to do some of those things and see if that can get you the activity stimulated back up. The second step might be to resort to maybe doing some Google paid ads to get you back up at the top. If you were getting a lot better engagement on social media, now that has went away, that may have something to do with the type of content you've been posting. It may have something to do with the fact that you may just have to spend a little bit of money to get in front of the same number of people you were getting in front of organically before. Again, the number one thing you need to determine is what has changed. There's something on the back end of your business you should be able to figure out that's changed, and then figure out from there what actions you need to take. So it's not just a like one size fits all, like, hey, here's what you should do as far as a first step. It all, in my mind, if you have an existing business and something's changed, the very first thing we need to do is figure out what has changed, so that then we can determine a strategy to address that particular thing. In this particular situation, the person was obviously getting good results at one point in time. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to figure out how to get them good results. We just have to put back in place the thing that was working for them before. And the idea would be that if you can get that back in line, that the good results would follow. So hopefully that answers your question. It's not as easy as, obviously, hey, do this one thing and that's going to work for you, because sometimes it's not that simple. But I think that in this situation, it should be fairly easy to figure out what's changed, what's missing, and how you can proceed from there. And I always, obviously, if you can do some different things that don't cost you money and get those results back in line, all the better. But in some cases, you may have to spend a little bit of money because you just don't get the same organic reach on Facebook that you used to. So if you were getting a lot of leads from social media, you may have to spend a little bit of money to get the same results, even though you're doing a lot of the things the same way that you were doing them before and getting success. The way that Facebook's managing things has changed a little bit. So hopefully that helps. Jordan asks, have you heard that Google My Business app is going to be taken down? They've actually changed it to be a Google. They don't call it Google My Business anymore. They call it Google Business Listing. I'm still stuck in bad habits. I continue to call it Google My Business, but it's actually Google Business Listing now. I have not heard anything about that, Jordan, and I keep my ear pretty close to the ground about things that are going on online, and I have not heard they're taking that away. In fact, I think, if anything, I'm seeing a lot of the results that our clients are getting are coming through Google Business. So I think Google's actually putting even more emphasis on that as far as continuing to update it and use that platform. Jordan actually mentions, I want to make sure Google Maps will be replacing it. I think that Google Maps is basically that map pack. They're changing some things around with regard to the front end of that, Jordan. But the thing that's going to drive those listings is still going to be your Google Business Listing and the things that you're doing there. And I've seen nothing to indicate that they're going to take away that. So although the front interface may change a little bit, the thing on the back end that actually drives the performance and drives your positioning within that platform, from what I understand, is going to stay the same. And I haven't seen anything that indicated that that's not the case. Google reviews are still going to be important, posting regularly, adding optimized pictures, making sure your content is filled out properly and complete. All those things are going to continue to be important, even if, like I said, the front end but you mentioned you have an article. I'd love to read it. Like I said, I tend to pay attention to a lot of these things, and basically, I have not seen anything or heard anything about that, and I would think that would be pretty big news because a lot of people are really using that platform. So, if there's something, I'd be happy to look at an article and bring it up next week once I get a chance to look at the article and really decipher what they're trying to say is changing. So anyway, thank you for bringing that up, Jordan. I will definitely dig into that a little bit more this week. I look forward to getting your article because I would really like to read that and see what that's saying about that. Google business listing, Google My Business, whatever you want to call it, has become a really primary way that a lot of people are reaching more people. So, I'd love to see if something's going to change with that. And if so, figure out what we need to do to make sure we're on top of making sure that, everybody's optimized and understands how to take advantage of that. Anyway, but yeah, Jordan, I think you have my email or you have my DM. Please send that link over. I'd love to take a look at it. So with that, we'll jump into the next question. It says, what are the best organic performing platforms right now? That is actually, a couple different things. A lot of people think that, Meta, if you want to call it Facebook, Instagram, whatever, Meta, which basically is Facebook and Instagram, has lost a little bit of its luster. But the reality is that there's still 1.9 billion and change active users on Meta on a daily basis. That's 1.9 billion. So there's a lot of people that are still active on the Meta platform. So I don't think that even though, you hear a lot about TikTok and a lot of other things that are going on right now, I don't think that means that, there's no juice left in Meta. I think it's still by far getting the lion's share of the social media traffic. Now, TikTok is definitely changing the way a lot of people are consuming social media, so definitely needs to be paid attention to. So to answer this question, which is what are the best performing organic platforms right now, I'm going to just tweak it just slightly to say, it's not necessarily the platform, it's the type of post you do in the platform. A lot of our clients we've been working with have been having some really decent success with Instagram Reels right now, which is Instagram's version, if you will, of kind of TikTok. Now, it's slightly different than TikTok, but the idea is very similar to TikTok. The one benefit you get with Instagram Reels is if you select to do so, Facebook potentially will show that, or Meta, I should say, I keep messing that up. Meta will show that across all their platforms. So even though you put it in as an Instagram Reel, as you probably have noticed if you spend any time in Facebook, you may be seeing, like, as you scroll down your feed, you will see a bar of essentially what is Instagram Reels. So even though it wasn't posted in Facebook, it's still being displayed on Facebook. That's important from a standpoint that these are getting, Instagram and Meta is trying to really, in a way to combat TikTok, really put a lot of juice by these. So these videos, these short form videos in vertical, if you could do it that way, native to the platform, are really getting a lot of traction. Now, some of them went viral. I know there's a couple people in our industry that have had some that have went over 1 million views. But much more practical, I routinely will see clients that we work with post a video there and get 5,000 views and several hundred likes and things like that to that video. And people will notice that video. People in their area will see that video a lot more. So I think that as far as organic reach, I would be paying attention to Instagram Reels and I would be paying attention to TikTok. There's also some really interesting thing if you do a lot of B2B type business. There's some interesting things happening on LinkedIn that allow you to get a lot of organic reach on LinkedIn with a new product they have called newsletters. So I'm going to probably go into that in next week's episode because it's actually, I'm still digging into it to completely understand the LinkedIn newsletters. But if you want to do some research on that yourself, LinkedIn newsletters is another way to get some really good organic traffic. But right now, I would think you should be looking at short form. And the nice thing about, you can take these videos, if you do short form videos, you can post them other places. I mean, you can post that on your Google My Business page. You can post that on your Facebook page. You can actually, if you shoot a short video, you could use it on TikTok and Instagram. What I would recommend that you do is always utilize the platform natively. So go in and create a custom post on TikTok, create a custom post on Instagram, even if it's the same video. Don't try to like share it from one platform to the other. Always do it natively. You will get better results that way. So, but you can take that on Instagram. It's really easy. You can say, show it in your feed as well. So not only will it show it as a reel, it'll show it in your feed. And it's really easy to do. And I think that those type of posts right now are being pushed because, again, Meta's trying to basically compete with TikTok, and TikTok is actually getting a lot of traffic. And in some ways, I've heard some things just recently where TikTok is actually getting more view time than even Google is, which is like the first time ever that something has displaced Google as where people spend the most time online. So do with that what you will. I think you're missing out if you're not at least dabbling in these shorter form videos. And I can tell you, they don't need to be anything. If you think that TikTok is you dancing in front of the camera or doing something like that, they don't have to be. Some of these videos are just people installing, doing things like that, doing part of their regular day and just kind of essentially documenting and showing an interesting part of their ordinary day. And they're getting a lot of views. So don't think, first thing I would recommend that you do, spend a little bit of time on the platforms, consuming a little bit of the content, and you will understand very quickly that it's not all people singing and dancing and lip syncing and things like that. There's a lot of really interesting content that's being put out there from all types of professions and all types of professional people. So if you understand that, try to start working back to say, okay, how does that fit with my company? How does it fit with my personality? If you're not somebody that's a very like type A personality that's going to be dancing and really animated on the camera, figure out how that format fits with your personality and your business. It doesn't have to be, you have to do something that's authentic to you. But I think you'll find if you consume a little bit of this content that people are being successful on these platforms in a wide variety of ways. And it's not only one way, but I think you'll find some very interesting things that you could potentially then plug into your business model and the way you do it and have some success. So hopefully my one piece of homework, if you're watching this and you have not done it, spend a little time on those platforms and learn what's being put out there and what's being successful. And I think that's going to be very informative for you. So let me make sure we have Josh Welch asks, is it worth doing ads through Meta or am I wasting money again? Actually, somebody asked a very similar question, and I will answer them together because it's very similar to that, Josh. The question that came in was with Meta removing Facebook, removing targeting and people using other platforms like TikTok, or Facebook ads still relevant? So very similar question. So I answer those two together. The answer to that is absolutely. People are still having a lot of success with Meta, but the thing is, you have to understand that there are a lot more ads on the platform than there ever were before, and people are being targeted in a way that maybe isn't as fine-tuned as it used to be. So they're seeing a lot of junk ads. So people right now feel like they're seeing a lot more garbage ads. They're not seeing good ads. So it's very important right now, more than ever, that your ads are really done properly, targeted well, and that your copy and your visual are really stand out. Because with so much noise, for lack of a better term, on the platform, you really have to step up your game to break through that noise and to get through. So short form answer to that, Josh, yes, you could do that. You do have to still spend time understanding the targeting, but more important than ever is to spend time thinking about how you're going to post your ads, how they're going to stand out. A couple different things I'm going to go into here. One of the things I posted online, the average person, we're talking the average, because a lot of people are consuming these platforms on a mobile device. When you're scrolling on a mobile device, you think about it, that's like real estate that's passing your screen. The average person scrolls the height of the Statue of Liberty every single day. Think about that. That's how much, if you added up all those screens they're scrolling through and stacked them on top of each other, the average person is scrolling through that amount of screen in a given day. So if your ad or your post doesn't do something to jump off the screen, it's probably going to be overlooked. It doesn't matter if it's a paid ad or it doesn't matter if it's organic. If you aren't doing something to stop that scroll, you're going to be overlooked. So, it used to be that, again, you could kind of put an ad out there that was okay and put a little bit of money behind it and put some decent targeting, and you would be able to get people's attention. It's getting harder and harder to do. So what are a couple tips that we could go into there? One of the things, and there's another question that came in today as well that's similar to this, but I'll go ahead so that we don't confuse the two. The visual, the picture, the screen capture of the video, you can actually choose what you want to show up as the picture, that even if it's a video, the picture that initially shows up, the picture that you use, that's what's going to stop the scroll. So be thinking about it as people are scrolling through, using a visual, using something that's going to stop the scroll. Facebook calls it a thumb pause moment, which, if you think about it as you're scrolling, you're typically using your thumb. So how do you stop the scroll? You rest your thumb on that stops the scroll. So you have to think initially, like, in a world full of noise, how are you going to stop the scroll? Typically, the way you're going to do that is with a good visual, great picture, a great screen capture from the video, something like that. The second thing that's going to pull people in is going to be the copy. And what I'd encourage you to do is, a lot of people write copy that sort of takes a sentence or two to get into it. Like, they're writing like somebody's actually reading an article or whatever, and they're writing a sentence or two to get into it. You have to use like a headline or something that's going to stand out, because people are going to skim. If you're successful in getting them to pause the scroll, they're going to read, they're going to skim that first line or two. If you don't grab their attention in that first line or two, they're typically going to scroll by. So start thinking about that, using a headline or using something that's going to grab their attention and pull them in at the very first sentence, ideally, and then use a little bit of copy below that to sort of bring them into what you want them to do. Click on click to learn more, click on a link, whatever you want them to do. But think about that in that order. You got to have a piece of visual that's going to stop the scroll, and then you have to have a headline that's going to pull them in. If you don't have those two things, I don't care how much money you spend on Facebook advertising, your results are going to be diminished, because people are going to scroll past your ad. Even if you put it in front of the right people, there's so much noise, they're going to scroll past your ad. So I would say, think about those two things. Think about your targeting. It's still important. Yes, Facebook has taken away some of the targeting options, but that doesn't mean you can't still get in there and do some very innovative targeting on your ads. Make sure you're doing the proper targeting, but then once you've done that targeting, make sure that your ad or your post is good, because no amount of money is going to overcome bad copy or a bad, creative. Anyway, hopefully that helps, Josh. And again, play around with it too. The other thing a lot of people fail to do is, maybe you think an ad is like a home run, or maybe you think a post is a home run, but it just doesn't get the results. Start looking at it and saying, is my visual, is my creative good? Is my headline good? Maybe all that's missing, maybe your creative is great. Maybe your picture is great. So it's really successful in getting that thumb pause moment, but then your headline just lets them down. Maybe you're easing into the text instead of creating a headline that's going to grab their attention. So even though you created the thumb pause moment, you lost them in the copy. Or maybe you didn't even get them to stop because your creative is bad. So you didn't even create the thumb pause moment, even though your copy is good. Start dissecting your ads, and maybe don't, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe just tweak it a little bit. Say, maybe I should try using a slightly different piece of creative here and see if that has a different result. Or maybe I should change up my copy and try a different headline and see if that has a good result. So if you're not getting good results, rather than just chuck the whole thing, if you think that it's good and start over from scratch, maybe try a couple different variations and figure out that maybe all that was missing was a great headline. Maybe all that was missing was you didn't have a great piece of creative, so there was no thumb pause moment. So start approaching your ads very strategically like that, and I think you're going to get better results. But yes, Josh, I mean, it is a little bit harder than it was before because there's just a lot more noise, just like anything else. When there's so many things that are on the feed right now that are vying for your attention, what you're putting on there better be good or it's going to get passed right by. So hopefully, again, that helps. So the other thing, there's another question that came in that's very similar to this, and I want to sort of lump those together so that actually this is a question that just came in too. It says, you post a lot on social and see what works and what doesn't. What types of posts should I avoid? So this is a great question because it plays right into what Josh was asking about why my post. Essentially, they're asking why, what type of post should I avoid, or maybe why would a post not be working? Couple different tips to keep in mind here. If you have a video, I would absolutely recommend that you upload it to YouTube and again, create a great title. Create some good copy, all the different things you would do on YouTube. Here's a mistake a lot of people make. Do not share that video from YouTube onto your Facebook page and expect that you're going to get good results. You need to take that video and you need to upload it natively to Facebook, create a title on Facebook, tags on Facebook, your copy on Facebook. Think about it this way. Facebook or Meta, I should really get better about this. Meta and Google, in a lot of ways, are competitors. They're competing for your ad dollars, competing in a lot of different ways. YouTube is owned by Google. So if I'm Meta and you're posting a link to a YouTube video on your feed, do you think I want to promote that? Do you think I want that to be a popular post? You're literally promoting my competitor on my platform. So if you take a great video that's doing well for you on YouTube and you share it on Facebook, don't be surprised if it doesn't get a lot of views on Facebook and it doesn't get a lot of engagement on Facebook, because Facebook is not going to promote that. They're going to bury it, and maybe not even a lot of people are going to see that post. So do not take a video that you've uploaded to YouTube and share that video from YouTube onto Facebook, or you're going to get much lower engagement. You're going to get much fewer views. Take the same video, take the time, upload it natively to Facebook, create a great headline, create great copy, use the tags, do all the things Facebook gives you the ability to do. And I think you'll find immediately that your videos start getting a lot more engagement on the Meta platform versus sharing a YouTube video. So one of this question asked posts to avoid right out of the gate. Do not post YouTube videos on your Facebook page because you're not going to get good results doing that. You're going to get a lot better results if you post them natively. The other thing I would try to avoid is, let's say that you've created a blog on your website, or let's just say that you've come across an article that's really great that you want to share on your page. Rather than take that link and put it in Facebook, and Facebook does a great job of pre-populating a lot of times the image, everything is like pre-populated, and it looks good because it's a pre-populated link. The problem is that a lot of times, at least in our experimentation and other things I've read, that doesn't get the same results as actually finding a relevant picture to that blog article. If it's not, let's just go with an article you posted on your website. Take the featured image on your website, post that picture, the piece of creative, put the headline in there, maybe some subtext, and then put the link to the blog in there instead of actually putting the link in and letting Facebook pre-populate it with their pre-done link. Put the image in, the title, put the copy in, and then put the link. We found that you get a lot more engagement that way than actually just embedding the link into Facebook. And again, it's the same basic thing. You could use the same image that you would have used. You could use the same image that Facebook would have pulled as your featured image from your website. But it comes across the way that Facebook populates it, or the way that Meta populates it, it seems to get more engagement, much like natively uploading a video gets better than putting a YouTube video. It seems if you do it this way, by posting the picture and then putting the link in the text, you will get more engagement that way than if you just put the link in there and let Facebook populate the link. So there's a couple right off the top of type of posts to avoid, I would say, because I think if you're going to take the time to post them, you might as well get the most bang for your buck, if you will, or even if it's organic, just get the most engagement you can. And by doing those two posts wrong, even though it's the same basic concept, it's the same video, it's the same post, by doing those just a little bit differently, you can get a lot better results than doing them maybe in the way you've been doing them. So those would be posts I would avoid. And again, a straight text post is getting harder and harder. We talked a minute ago about there being a lot of noise on the platform. If you just have a straight text post with no visual, no creative, no picture, it gets very hard for that to jump off the feed when people are scrolling through. So try to think about ways you can include a picture or include something, a graphic, something that's going to be a little bit more than just text, because it really feels like just basic text posts are having a really hard time standing out from all the noise. So that would also be a post I would try to avoid, is something that is just text instead of actually figuring out a way to include a picture or a graphic or something like that. With that, we are right up against the half an hour. So I hope you guys found this beneficial today. I think we covered a lot of ground. I'm happy to go into some of these things at a greater detail in a future episode or anything like that. So if you have any questions, there's actually, I see Stephen Williams. I might take a second to answer this. He says, I get a lot of activity on Facebook ads, but not much conversion. So Steve, I'm going to leave you with this. Look at what are you asking people to do on your ad? Like if it is, if you're doing Facebook ads, we talked last week, and you might want to click back on the episode 52. We talked about the type of, the objective you use when you're creating a Facebook ad. If you do certain objectives, you may get a lot of activity on your ad, but not actually get the result you're looking for because you've chosen the wrong objective. You have to be really clear about what do you want to accomplish with this post? What are you trying to do? And typically it's some sort of conversion. It's either a phone call, it's either click through to your website, whatever. You have to define what success is, what you're trying to accomplish with the ad. And then once you define what you're trying to accomplish with the ad, the entire ad, the way the ad is built, the way what you're posting, the type of post and the creative and everything like that should align with that objective. So without seeing your ads and without really sitting down, Stephen, and going through them, it's hard for me to know. But my guess is what you're saying is you're getting activity, which I'm assuming is in the form of maybe likes or comments or things like that, but none of that's actually resulting in sales. It may be that you actually have set your ads up to have the wrong objective. So you're getting the likes or you're getting the comments, but you're not actually getting any clicks through to your website or anything like that. Or you're having clicks through to your website, but you're taking them through to your homepage. So they get there and, they were enticed by the post, but then they get there and they really don't know where to go from there. Instead of taking them to a particular page on your website that's going to feel like a natural progression of that click. So there's a lot of things that can go into you getting activity on your Facebook ad, but then in turn, it not actually resulting in business. And without, again, diving into what your particular ads are, things like that, it's very hard for me to know exactly why yours might not be working. but those are a couple things you might want to look at that could help define where the breakdown is there and go from there. So again, hopefully that helps. I think that was worth going a little bit over to make sure we got that answered. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks everybody for coming in on a Monday morning. I hope you guys have a terrific week. Again, if you have any questions, every Monday morning, we try to come on live at 10 o'clock. You can always be ready with a question. As soon as we get started, just go ahead and queue it up right in the comments. And I will always try to get to it, just like I did with Steve's right there. I always try, if somebody's going to be live with us here, to answer your question live and have a back and forth if we need to. So thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in. Again, you can always reach me online via DM. You can also send me an email at Patric, Patric, no K, at imagnetmgt.com. And I'd be happy to get your questions that way as well. Have a terrific week, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well, and I appreciate you tuning in. Take care. Bye.